Today we are reviewing the top 5 best 3D printers for beginners, kids, and schools for 2025 and heading into 2026. We're going to be diving into everything from price, quality, speed, customer service, and even multicolor solutions, as well as some critical tips. So stick around because I think the results are really going to surprise you. We're going to get into all of this right after this.
Welcome to the show that sets your mind free. Tech and gadgets, 3D surprise. Captain Creality. With David's guiding light, inventions spark and take their flight.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Captain Creativity. I am your host, David Merrill, and as our kids are returning back to school, as well as the holiday season right around the corner, it's a great time to do this breakdown. Now, before I tell you my top 5 picks, you might even be wondering, what experience do I have in even making these judgments? Well, let me take you back to where it all started, because I never told you about my background since I created this channel. Back in 2011, at a maker fair, and I was showing off one of my inventions, and right across from me was the famous Brie Pettis, who later became the CEO of MakerBot, and he was introducing something there called the cupcake. And I honestly thought that it had something to do with making cupcakes. Well, when I realized what it actually did, I was blown away and I was hooked on 3D printing from that point on. About 11 years ago, I bought my first 3D printer, which was a LulzyBot Taz, and the first thing I made was a Rocktopus. Now, fast forward, about 5 years ago, I started getting into STEM education and volunteering at organizations and schools, develop a STEM curriculum. Proceeds from this channel go towards making maker spaces and donating 3D printers and other maker equipment. And I got the honor of teaching students from 2nd grade all the way to 12th grade and really being able to see how they interact with things like 3D printers and what they struggle with and what works or does not work inside the classroom. Now, on a personal note, I'm also a father. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they are also jumping into 3D printing and trying to work with 3D printers. So it gave me also a firsthand experience as just a dad as well. So between me being a parent, a teacher, as well as a maker, I figured that this video is long overdue. Okay, before we jump into the countdown, I just want to very briefly mention something about multicolor printing. If you're a beginner, a teacher, a student, I would hold off on getting right into multicolor printing. It is a lot of fun, it is very cool, but when you're just starting off, we want to build up that confidence. We also want to make sure that you're not wasting time, you're not wasting filament. And multicolor printing definitely leads to much more complexity, more jams, as I mentioned, time and waste. And so I would definitely say start with the single color, get confidence in it, then go to multicolor printing. Now, with that being said, if there's an amazing deal out there on a combo unit, buy the combo. But just put the multicolor solution to the side or just don't use it initially and focus on single color printing first. All right, let's get into it. Coming in at number 5 is the Anycubic Cobra 3. This is a solid bed slinger and it gets the job done. Let's first start off with some of the pros. It was super simple to set up. It was honestly probably easier than the Bamboo Lab A1 when I first started this channel and I did a review on it. When you're ready for multicolor printing, their multicolor solution is my most favorite one that's out there today because it not only pulls your filament like butter, but it also has a built-in dryer, which is genius. Now, they also do have an ecosystem. They have the mobile app, they have their own slicing software, they even have an online 3D model library. I think one of the most attractive things about the Cobra 3 is its price point. It's great bang for your buck. It goes for about $259. And with the Ace Pro combo, you could get it all for about $359. I even have coupon codes because it is their 10-year anniversary, and I'm going to include those coupon codes in the description below. Now, let's talk about some of the cons. Even though this printer was one of the fastest bed slingers that I tested, it did so by compromising the quality just a smidgen. It was good, but it wasn't great. I did have issues with Anycubic printers, and including this one, usually when you had a new firmware or things like that, and I think that they definitely need to put a little bit more thought before they release firmware updates. I also didn't really like the LCD screen. It kind of felt a little bit more on the cheap side. It wasn't as responsive as other LCD screens out there. And I will definitely say their slicer was very simple and very user-friendly. It was okay. It got the job done, and it did so at a very attractive price. Now, if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, at $459, they have their Core XY solution called the Cobra S1. It will give you a little bit more speed, a little bit more quality, a much nicer LCD screen. Bottom line, this is a solid entry-level choice, especially if multicolor printing is on the horizon. It's really great for kids because I felt that loading up filament on this is easier than anything else, and it has that built-in dryer capability. Coming in at number 4 is the Flashforge AD5X, and what really stood out about this printer was its all-in-one design with a built-in multicolor filament system that sits right on the side. And it does all of this in a Core XY system for a ridiculously low price of $369. Now, typically, this printer goes for about $399, but I'm going to give you a coupon code for $40 off in the description below. Now, here's another great thing about that multicolor filament system. It actually supports TPU, where many other multicolor systems do not support it. They do. Based on its positioning, it goes right into the extruder without any issue or friction, and it does a really good job. Now, to be fair, I haven't tested this out yet. I do have some TPU. It is on an upcoming video. I actually am planning to do a full unboxing of it, and I will share with you the results when I'm done. Now, when it comes to its build size, it definitely is a little bit on the smaller side. It is only 220 millimeter cubed, but like I said, for that price point with the multicolor filament system and the fact that it's a Core XY unit, it's a pretty good bang for your buck. Now, when it comes to software, they do have a mobile app. And when it comes to their slicing solution, they actually use some version of Orca Slicer. They actually call it Orca Flashforge. But what I found odd about it was that when I went to Orca Slicer, I actually saw the profile in there for the AD5X, but it didn't work, or it didn't work with the multicolor solution. But when I reached out to the company, they said that unfortunately I will have to use their version called Orca Flashforge. But using it with their system, I had no issues, and I was actually pretty impressed with the results. Okay, so before we get into number 3 and number 2, there's some really crazy things I have to say about these upcoming printers. They were very close contenders for the number 1 spot. And the only reason why they didn't get the number 1 spot, and it wasn't because of quality and it wasn't because of speed, it was literally because they were missing certain things that I think are critical for beginners or teachers or students. But here's the thing. These things could very likely be accomplished in the months ahead, so definitely stay tuned because these likely could end up being the number 1 contender in 2026. Coming in at number 3 is the Elegoo Centauri Carbon. It's actually one of my favorite 3D printers because it gives you so much bang for your buck. It delivers amazing quality at amazing speed at an amazing price. It costs $299, and it gives you a build size of 256 millimeter cubed. It's often compared as a total clone to the Bamboo Lab P1 series, but it has a nice large LCD touchscreen, and it actually has a full enclosure and can handle materials like ABS and ASA. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what's wrong with this printer? It sounds amazing. Well, the issue is that it doesn't have some key things that you would probably want if you're a beginner or a teacher or a student. So the first issue is that it doesn't have a mobile app, so you cannot remotely monitor or send prints directly to the Centauri Carbon. It does have a slicer, which is built off of Orca Slicer, but one of the great things about the Centauri Carbon is that it's natively supported in the regular vanilla version of Orca Slicer, and that's a big deal. I like that a lot. It works great, but you do have to get the IP address from the LCD screen and enter it into the settings. So it's a little bit more friction than what you would experience in Creality Print or Prusa Slicer or Bamboo Studio. But if you do like Bamboo Studio or Prusa Slicer, you're going to be very comfortable here because this is a fork of Bamboo Studio and it looks almost identical other than the color scheme. Now they do have an online 3D library, and Elegoo is actually making a considerable investment in this space, putting a lot of money to get more creators to build for them, but it's not yet there. When you compare it to other online spaces like Printables or Maker World or even Creality Print, they're a little bit behind. Another thing that went against it was the fact that it does not currently have a multicolor solution. And if you're interested in going multicolored down the road, you don't have an option right now. The company mentioned that it was supposed to be released around this time period, but still not here. It's definitely overdue. And when I reached out to the company, there is still no ETA. So if multicolor printing is a definite must for you down the road, then this printer may not be it for you, at least not right now. Now, one thing that's very interesting about the Centauri Carbon is that it does have a P1P version of it called the Elegoo Centauri, and that one goes for $200. I have not been able to get a hold of one of these things, and if it's just the same machine but without the enclosure, well, that might be the better option, because if you're a teacher, a student, or you're just beginning, you might just be working with PLA at this point and you don't need the Centauri Carbon. But I can't tell you whether the quality is still the same. If it's anything like the Bamboo Lab P1P and P1S, those two machines were really identical other than the enclosure. Now, if multicolor printing right now is not an issue for you and you like the price point and you want amazing quality, amazing speed, there is only one more hurdle that could be a problem for you. It's a little bit noisy. When you first start off this printer, it's very loud. Maybe not as loud as others, but it's loud enough. It may be too loud for teachers who are trying to run a classroom, and if you end up getting more of these, well, then it's going to get pretty noisy. Now, I don't know if this is something that they can fix, but it is something that you do need to know. Now, it does calm down after it starts, but at any point during the print, if it accelerates back up, that noise gets pretty loud again. At number 2 is the Creality High. And this one surprised me. Their build size goes a drop larger than their competition, going at 260 by 260 by 300 millimeters on the build volume. They also have their own multicolor filament system called the CFS, and actually that supports upwards of 16 colors, where many of their competitors only support upwards of 4 to 8. The setup process was a total breeze, including the software, and they really have a nice ecosystem, from a mobile app to their slicing platform called Creality Print. Now, Creality Print has come a long way, and it's very robust. They also have a large 3D model maker library, which goes beyond 3D printing. The company takes a 360-degree approach to the maker industry by covering FDM printers, resin printers, laser engravers, and even 3D scanners. Their mobile app is also very powerful. They definitely need to work a little bit more on their UI and Creality Cloud, but honestly, feature-wise, it has everything there. Certainly in their slicer, they have all the features you would expect, and the quality and speed were fantastic. And you get all of this for $299, which is a great price given its build size, given its quality, and given its entire complete ecosystem. Now, if you want to get their multicolor filament system and you want to go for the combo, it goes for $399. Overall, they were so close to number 1, like really close. There really weren't any major cons here aside from their UI and needing a little bit of improvement. But I do think that one of their biggest issues in their ecosystem is this premium service. They're charging clients for a premium version of Creality Cloud, and there's even premium models. And I definitely feel that Creality at this point should be focusing more on just getting more people onto that platform. And I think you're just adding a lot of friction here by offering this premium service. We don't see it on printables. We certainly don't see it on MakerWorld. I don't think it's necessary, and I think that it's holding you guys back. Aside from that, on Creality Cloud, I love the fact that they're also creating their own tools. Similar to Bamboo Labs, MakerWorld's Make Lab, they have Make Now, but they really only have 2 tools there, so hopefully they'll develop more. Coming in at number 1 is the Bamboo Lab A1. And honestly, I'm surprised that I'm still saying that this is the number 1 printer that I recommend to beginners, kids, and teachers. The main reason is, at the end of the day, it's reliable and it's affordable. It has one of the easiest platforms and easiest ecosystems out there in the world of 3D printing. If you're getting something for beginners, for kids, for teachers, you need something that they can afford and that it can work and that it's easy. Even getting it out of the box, the A1 was a very simple build. Then their software is very user-friendly, everything from their Bamboo Studio Slicer to their mobile app. For example, my kids on their iPad have the Bamboo Handy app. They go through their models, and right out of the gate, they can get their first printer onto the machine like that, just by clicking a few buttons. It is that simple. And in terms of affordability, it goes for about $349. Now, it's still holding on somewhere around that price point, but we do see it sometimes dip as low as $300. Now, keep in mind, this printer does not necessarily give you the best quality or the best speed. But at the end of the day, when you're dealing with beginners, and you're dealing with kids, and you're dealing with teachers, above everything, it needs to be easy and it needs to be reliable. At this price point, schools can afford to get about 4 to 6 of these 3D printers in their makerspace. When you're a teacher and you need to go ahead and get a ton of projects out there, you need something that's very easy to maintain, and you need to be able to hit a price point that you can get enough printers to get out all these projects. The Bamboo Lab A1 does all of this. When it comes to their online ecosystem, like MakerWorld, it's unreal. It's easy to use, and it's free, and when you get into it, they have 3MF options and printer profiles to make sure that the print that you're about to make comes out exactly as you see it in the preview. It does the best job of making sure that when you print something, it's going to come out the way you hope and expect it to. Now, of course, things are going to go wrong, but they have a very good online support system and ticket system that are really helpful. You know, I've donated over 30 A1 printers to schools, and I've never had an issue until just recently. I got something that was pretty much dead on arrival, and even though it was months later, I was able to open up a ticket. They responded back to me, and even though they couldn't replace it, they did send me the replacement parts for me to pop in. And they were really fast when it came to their communications. Another thing that I love about MakerWorld is that they're now expanding into things like motors and servos, and they deployed CyberBrick, which allows you to bring your 3D prints to life, and you could add LED lights and all kinds of things to really enhance your 3D projects. I love at the end of the day that all their projects that they have on MakerWorld, you could get everything from soup to nuts through Bamboo Lab, and it really does lower the bar of entry for anyone who's getting into 3D printing for the first time. Another thing that I really love about the Bamboo Lab printers is that they're very easy to maintain. And while they have recommendations on how to maintain them, I have to tell you that I've been pretty bad in maintaining my printers, and the Bamboo Lab A1 series, as well as other series, they actually work really well even when you're neglectful. And when you're running a large classroom full of students and you're just constantly needing to print, you could forget to do maintenance here and there, and sometimes you don't get around to it till the end of the school year. Now, as a parent, I love the fact that the kids can go on their iPads and send prints out. At the end of the day, their ecosystem is what really delivers the number one position and the reliability and the price. It is a little bit more than some of these very other attractive alternatives, but the reliability and ease of use is what I'm looking for when you're a beginner, when you're a kid, when you're a teacher. From a parent standpoint, from a teacher standpoint, our job is to build confidence. I want our kids to be able to work with a 3D printer and have their prints come out reliably. I don't want them to be discouraged, even though adversity is part of life, but I don't want them to be so discouraged out of the gate that they give up on 3D printing altogether. Now, before I get accused of being a Bamboo Lab fanboy, I want to tell you right off the bat, I am not a Bamboo Lab fanboy. In fact, when it comes to their multicolor filament system called the AMS, I hate it. And I will tell you that time after time after time again, every kid, every parent that gets their kid a combo unit, they end up with jams, broken filament that breaks off inside the AMS. The number one cause of every single phone call I get from parents that their printer is no longer working is related to their AMS system, whether it be the AMS Lite or the regular AMS, or even now the AMS2. The AMS2 is great, but only if it works with the Bamboo Lab H2D or the H2S. I have used the AMS2 in my P1 series, and I hate it. I love Bamboo Lab printers. I do not like their multicolor filament system. You know, when I think of the Bamboo Lab AMS systems, I think of that scene in Office Space where they take that really frustrating printer and they bring it out to a park and completely destroy it. That's exactly what I want to do with my AMS systems. Kids struggle with the AMS Lite. It is very awkward for their little fingers to get that filament up and around. They can't even see what they're loading in. It's not ideal. And then when they came out with the regular AMS, which doesn't work with the A1, apparently the AMS2 will work with it, but still, nonetheless, pushing in and then putting in the filament. I've seen how other companies handle their multicolor filament systems. It doesn't need to be this difficult. And a tip for teachers out there, do not do multicolor printing of any nature until we start seeing affordable multi-extruder systems that get rid of waste and time. Do not make a considerable investment in multicolor printing in the classroom. You just are not going to have the time, and you're going to have a lot of waste. And those are two things that all schools cannot afford. So now that we wrapped up the top 5, let's address the elephant in the room. Why didn't I mention Prusa? They're a fantastic company. They make amazing 3D printers. And the truth is, if today's video was to be about the best 3D printers overall, they would absolutely be in it. And I am working on a video to show you just that. But today's video was all about the best 3D printer for beginners, kids, and schools. And there were two things that took them out of the running. The first one was affordability. If your kid wanted to start learning how to play the piano, do you go ahead and buy them a Steinway & Sons piano? Of course not. That's crazy. You'll probably start them on something a lot cheaper and, just to see if they like it, because kids do give up on things and they don't always stick with it. They also might just find out that it's not for them. So the idea of spending so much money on a 3D printer is not practical. The other thing is, when you look at things from a teacher perspective, remember, schools do not have unlimited budgets. And I know some schools out there do, but most do not. And they're looking for getting the best bang for their buck and getting quantity. Because when you have 15 to 30 students per class, you want to start getting multiple printers. And you're going to tend to look in that $300 to $500 range and get 4 to 6 3D printers or more. Unfortunately, most schools are not going to make the decision of spending their entire budget on just 1 to 2 Prusa 3D printers. Now, the second thing came down to confidence. When your kid is learning to swim, do you throw them into the deep end? Of course not. We want to build confidence in beginners, especially kids. Any teacher will tell you building confidence is a key objective here. So I wouldn't start them with a Prusa just because it could get very complicated when you're putting together a Prusa printer, especially if you're trying to save money and get the non-assembled version. And if you do go with the pre-assembled version, well, then you have the issue of affordability. So with that being said, if you're the type of parent or teacher who believes in trial by fire, well, then certainly, if you think your kid can handle it, have them work with a Prusa printer. And I will tell you this, if your kid gets to the other side of it, they will be an expert in 3D printing. So if you're the type of teacher who wants to assemble the printers together, disassemble, and then reassemble year after year to teach their students what went into it and how to build it, you're gonna create 3D printing mavericks. But at the end of the day, it just really wasn't worth that risk. And so that is why I didn't put them in the top 5 when it came to the best 3D printers for beginners, for kids, or for schools. Anyway, I have to tell you, coming up with this top 5 ranking, it wasn't easy. I threw a ton of testing at this, and honestly, if it came down to just the quality and speed, I would definitely say that the Centauri Carbon was a clear winner. But I couldn't just say that because the point of this video was really to look at it from a perspective of what's fantastic from a beginner or a child or a teacher standpoint. And with that being said, I had to take a more holistic approach to this testing. While I did go ahead and look at quality, I went to speed. I did everything from bridging tests, overhang tests, infill tests, surface texture tests. I tested it up the wazoo, but I ended up having to also go into things like their ecosystem, looking at their software, the ease of use, the ease of setup, the ease of maintenance, future extension capabilities like multicolor printing, and then, of course, even customer service, where I went ahead and actually sent out trouble tickets to all the different companies to see what their turnaround time was. After all of that, that's how I came up with today's ranking. Basically, the Centauri Carbon here came in at the best quality and the easiest removal for tree supports. This was absolutely fantastic. It's also without any surprise that the other one was the Flashforge AD5X, which was another Core XY. And as I mentioned before, Core XY is usually going to give you better quality, better speed because of its stability and the way that, you know, these things are built, right? But the A1 definitely did come in behind them in great quality. I was very, very impressed. So even for a bed slinger, that was really good. Anyway, that's what it looks like when it came to quality. Now, when it came to speed, again, the Centauri Carbon came in as the winner. This one came in at the fastest, but from the bed slinger perspective, believe it or not, the Anycubic Cobra 3 came in as the second fastest. The only thing is, maybe it comes at a compromise in quality because of the issue with the supports and things like that. You know, just because something gets done faster doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better, and this is definitely the case here. But the Anycubic Cobra 3, I was very surprised. And if I didn't need supports on the print, then yeah, the Anycubic Cobra 3 was a pretty fast machine. When it came to the bridging test, clear winner here, surprisingly, was the Cobra 3. It actually came in very well. There was no separation. It was a very, very good result for bridging. Centauri Carbon came in at second place. And then the other 3 were more or less the same. Now, when it came to the overhang tests, again, Centauri Carbon came in first place. It was absolutely beautiful, all the way from 0 to 80 degrees. On the underside, you could see here is where it started to lose its stability. But look at that, it's right at the beginning of 80 degrees. It actually got through the whole 70, and only at 80 degrees did it start to droop on the, that was really impressive, and that was the clear winner. All right, then when it comes to the second and third places, I would say 85X, the Flashforge 85X came in second place. Again, starting to droop a little bit into the 70s here on the overhang, but on the front side, it did a great job. There is no doubt, again, Centauri Carbon came in first place. I mean, it's just beautiful. Between the infill and the surface texture test over there, it came in beautifully, absolutely beautifully. It was also true on the Creality High, coming in with really nice results. Anyway, that's our show for today, and thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was informative to you, especially with the upcoming holiday season. Anyway, if you have found it helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And stay tuned, because in our next video, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Prusa XL, which is still considered the best multicolor printer on the market. It does have this 5 extruder system, but there's been issues with it. Some people say it's amazing. Some people say it's a big pain in the butt. We're going to find out. Until then, happy printing.